It might be Thursday, Congress might be on break, but the Democrats introduce a new rent assistance bill late today. Hey everybody, this is LALATE with a second stimulus check and stimulus package update for today. This one's about rent assistance with great news that we did not see coming. It's both a federal and a state grant program that were announced minutes ago, and they're really just inspiring. Let me get right to it. A federal bill was introduced minutes ago. Yes, members of Congress are on vacation, and yet they're doing bills. I don't know how this happened, but it did. The Democrats on Thursday introduced a new bill called the Economic Justice Act, which seeks to deliver 10 financial investments over periods of 5 years to communities of color to provide incentives like childcare, mental health, and job development, and also infrastructure for rent assistance. Wow. What does this include? It includes $15 billion to expire on Medicare, $20 billion in small business support for communities of color, $24 billion for jobs and hiring. But let's talk about rent assistance. It includes $115 billion toward a down payment on home, internet, affordable housing, and public schools. Wow, where did this come from? This is really great news. I mean, it also includes a lot of stuff that's not about rent assistance and, clearly off topic of this video, but let me just jump on them. $40 billion towards a new home down payment tax credit up to $15,000 per family. Boy, this is just incredible. Instead of allowing hundreds of billions of dollars in government assistance to sit idly at the Treasury, Senate Democrats would like to reprogram these dollars during negotiations for a fourth COVID-19 bill in tandem with the robust provisions of the House's HEROES Act, says the press release obtained by LALATE. This is really incredible because, first of all, it's incredible that things are happening like this. We all thought that nothing's going to happen earlier this week, and then by middle of the week, I told you that the Republicans are going to start road showing, basically releasing to press their second stimulus package next Monday or Tuesday. Then now we have the Democrats coming back and say, I can one-up you. I'm going to do the same thing. So they're introducing to press new bills left and right. Again, this is to press, it's not to Congress because they're not in session. But they're saying that when Congress goes back into session, these will be the bills. Quote, long before the pandemic, long before this recession, long before this year's protests, structural inequalities have persisted in housing, the economy, and education, says Chuck Schumer. COVID-19 has only magnified those injustices, and we must confront them with lasting, meaningful solutions. The Economic Justice Act, which is what it's called, is a needed step in the long journey to address systematic racism and historic underinvestment in communities of color. This is incredible. Wow, it's just incredible. Now, here's this one. I did not see this coming. I don't know if you saw it coming. And it's great news because it really suggests what's happening across this country. If you didn't watch our hazard pay bill earlier today, please go watch it, because in that I said, hey, overnight, 3 more cities or counties launched local hazard pay second stimulus programs. These aren't federal ones. These are local ones using money that the localities got from the first stimulus package of the CARES Act. What's going on? Well, there's all this money that these counties and states and cities were given under the first stimulus package, the CARES Act, to use for a lot of resources that are impacted by the pandemic. And they haven't used the money. It's besides me why they haven't used the money. So now they're starting to use the money. And so some of them are launching hazard pay programs. Well, as you know, this video is about rent. So today, New York launched a rent assistance program using exactly the funds that I just described to you. Those funds from the first stimulus package under the CARES Act. Governor Andrew Cuomo announced today an emergency rental assistance program that will help low-income families throughout New York in their homes. The program is funded by the CARES Act. Quote, since day one, we made it clear that no New Yorkers should be thrown on the streets because of the hardships that was caused by the pandemic. It's critically important that people are able to stay safely in their homes as we progress through our data-driven, phased reopening, and the COVID-19 rent relief program reinforces our commitment of direct assistance to those greatest in need. So what's great news about this is not so much if you're only in New York that you can get free grant money, but that a lot of states, cities, and counties are doing these type of things. They're doing grant money. And what's also indicative is that they have the funds to do it, and they haven't been doing it. In the last few days, I've been detailing viewers of this channel like Kevin Lee, who's just, he is one of our winners. He's one of our winners who we got an EIDL grant loan for yesterday within 24 hours. But earlier in the week, we were detailing him in a whole different regards. He had dropped in the comments that he was facing eviction for him and his family. He found a grant program in Houston or Dallas or Texas, somewhere in Texas, found the grant program, applied for it. The minute it went open, there's tens of thousands of people. He got the grant program. He was able to stay in his home. That was before he won big with our help for EIDL loans yesterday, and that EIDL loan is now coming to him. But so when we ran his video, that video referring to his success story on grant programs for rent, we didn't know what's going on now for states or counties that have this enormous amount of money provided to them by the CARES Act, which they haven't allocated. New York is now starting to do it. Senator Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins says, despite the progress we made in the fight in COVID-19, millions of New Yorkers are struggling because of the virus and the economic crisis. I applaud Senator Brian Kavanaugh for advancing the legislation and the Democratic Party for passing it and for COVID and for Cuomo signing it. While this effort will offer some relief, we know the government needs to step in and provide more during this period. We're going to keep advancing meaningful legislation for New Yorkers and keep the federal government to work with us on resources going forward. So this is for people who need rent assistance in New York. To qualify, if you are in New York and you're watching this video, listen up and get a pen and paper. Here we go. You must be a renter with a primary residence in New York. You, before March 1st, and at the time of the application, your household income must be 80% below the average median income, adjusted for household size. Applicants can find the area median income for their county based upon household size on the HCR's website. Before March 1st, and at the time of the application, the household must have been rent burdened, which means they were paying more than 30% of their gross monthly income towards rent. The applicants must have lost money during any period from April 1st to July 31st. And the application window is open for 2 weeks. Applicants can apply anytime during their 2-week period. That is incredible. It also sort of mirrors what happened with Kevin Lee. He said that people just rushed in and applied for those grants in Texas because they were just open for hours. Here it's saying, hey, if you qualify, start applying. If you're not in Texas, what I want you to do is when you're finished with this video, Google rent assistance or rent grant plus where you live using the word of the county, city, or state, and see if they have those programs. Because these things are changing on a daily basis, and I want you to keep on looking. I mean, I did not think when I was recording videos earlier this week for rent assistance that Andrew Cuomo would announce a program for his entire state. I mean, I just didn't see that coming. And I did not see coming that all these states would say, hey, we have all this money sitting around for hazard pay. We're going to start paying hazard pay. I didn't see that coming. I had no idea how much money these states got for the first stimulus package. It's just not clear. Now we know. And this is really great news. Assembly Speaker Carl Hesse said, for many New Yorkers, the pandemic has made the challenges of securing affordable housing even greater. The Assembly majority has fought tirelessly for years to keep people in their homes. With many people out of work, we need assistance from the federal government to keep states living. We must do everything to keep New York families in their homes. The rent assistance program, while not enough, will be a step forward to lifting a financial burden for those most vulnerable. We continue to help those people during these unprecedented times. I mean, it's just incredible. What was the response? And this is sort of mirrors what happened in the Kevin Lee situation. How big has been the response? The program went live today and it was overwhelmed. After users reported the website had crashed, an agency indicated that the website was down, but that was back up. ultimately, there's an issue here, and one of those issues I have to say that I detailed in another video, which I think was the PUA and UI video, is that sometimes these grant programs are not equally dispersed. It has been proven now by a new report, which I detailed on the PUA and UI video, that people who often apply for these grant programs have computers. They have internet access. And some people who don't have internet access, don't have computers, sometimes just can't apply because they don't have the technical means to apply. They don't have the funds or means to apply. They don't have Wi-Fi. They don't have internet. And that sometimes applying on their phone is not sufficient enough. So ultimately, the application process for some of these things is not equally dispersed. And I'm sorry about that. So when we go into next week, what's going to happen? We're going to find out what Mitch and Stevie think about rent assistance. The HEROES Act proposes a big rent assistance plan that gives you a lot of money and protects you and doesn't allow you to be kicked out of your home going into next year. It's really, really needed. The rent assistance program proposes to give you rent money that you pay, that's paid to you as a grant, that you can only use for rent, not to go buy some shoes. And that rent is then paid to the landlord. So the landlord gets their rent, the landlord gets their money, and the landlord gets to pay off their mortgage and make their bills as well. It also gives you money for utilities, and you pay that to the utilities company, also keeping the utilities solvent. Really great news. Anyone would be eligible for this grant program who is impacted by COVID-19 and has having problems making rent. The problem with the program is the timing. I've said that a time before. The program could likely get approved on or around August 7th or August 8th, but a lot of the viewers of this channel are facing evictions now. It's very disconcerting. How quickly can Congress act, and why aren't they acting on it now? The program also includes other things that protect people, both landlords, property owners, homeowners, and tenants. One, it protects tenants by preventing them from being evicted from their homes because of the pandemic into 2021. It creates a federal law that prohibits evictions during the pandemic. That is just incredible. The second one is it prevents landlords from being foreclosed upon by their banks. That is also very good because, banks generally don't want to forgive anyone, and especially they don't care about a pandemic. So it would protect property owners. It would protect both owners of apartment buildings and also homeowners. So if you live in your home and you can't make mortgage, it would protect your home from foreclosure. You would not have to pay mortgages during the pandemic. You could delay the payments of the mortgages. Really, really great news. We don't know where the Republicans are on this. We're going to find out next week. A lot of exciting, big news. Always stay motivated, stay smiling, stay focused, and always stay FLA for more.